Glad to welcome you back. Still rise and shine, and we're beaming live from you, the capital city of Akwa Ibom State. And we did say this is a Happy New Year package from Rise and Shine. And yes, if this is the first time you've come across our station, just be sure to find out all you can about us on our social media platforms, all of which you can find on our website, spectrumtvlive.ng. And it's a Happy New Year. If you've missed out on our conversations, don't get upset. You can always catch up on all of the things that we have shared on the platform, across the social media platforms. Of course, down the line, we are going to be talking and dissecting some of the speeches that we have taken this morning from His Excellency Governor Pastor Omoyeno, PhD, to Nigeria's President Bola Ahmed Tinubu before we get to the foreign scene. But of course, let's quickly bring on board our guest who is starting the year with us, talking about Marvel Joseph, who is himself an analyst and also an organizational management specialist. Good morning. Happy New Year, Marvel Joseph. How are you today?
Good morning, Francis.
I think you're looking sweeter this new year.
Say sweeter. He's looking new in your eye.
Just like we are, it's looking new in my eyes.
Abi?
Yeah, I heard it's been a long time and last time, Mr. Marvel. Essien, good to have you on the show, sir. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Yeah, trust has been good.
Yeah, great.
You don't need to ask. I mean, when you see somebody whose skin is radiating and whose vibe is vibing, you just know that in the midst of all that is happening in Nigeria, he's one of those that have not been touched.
Just keep battering me.
I think at this point we should send flowers to Mrs. Essien. Yeah, absolutely. All right, then. Of course, we're having this conversation this morning, and we're still looking back into some of the most key policy reforms and activities of the federal government in 2024 and how they are going to impact upon the journey in 2025. Just before we brought you on live, we're talking about the president's speech and some of the things he hopes we can achieve as a nation. We're still talking about tax reform bills. Hopefully, we can get a consensus and it gets signed into law. Or is there even a possibility that it gets trashed out entirely because some people in the nation don't want to agree to that? But let's backtrack a little bit. What would you say was one of the key policy reforms, or one of the most striking actions that the federal government took in 2024, and how do you think it affected Nigerians, and will it continue to bear fruit in 2025?
Yeah, you see, 2024 was just a year that the government had to manage the reforms they started in 2023. That is specifically when you talk about the petroleum subsidy reform, where you had cost of transportation affected and so many things. And they seem to pay. That's the foreign exchange reform as well. All that affected price stability in Nigeria, and that is how we came into 2024. You see, we had a very good, not very good per se, we had a higher GDP in 2023 December, and you saw it, declining so much in January 2024, and that's where 2024 picked up from. So the federal government, of course, through its monetary and fiscal policies, have tried to manage the economy, have tried to manage every aspect of our lives in a manner that we were able to end 2024 a bit better than we started 2024. So the kind of situations, the kind of policy that we were seeing government trying to battle, to struggle with, had to do with the monetary policies basically rolled out by the Monetary Policy Committee of the Central Bank of Nigeria, and that on its own became a major area that every other thing revolved around. So we kept listening to the Monetary Policy Committee, and we're hoping that things could be done better. Yet, of course, they have tried to do things better, but it has not trickled down to the micro level. So at the macro level, it's excellent, it's good, but it has not yet trickled down to the macro level. I know manufacturers and every other person in production would have been praying for the interest rates to come down. But of course, the Central Bank of Nigeria, they have strong reasons, and I see it with them, that they had to manage the kind of inflation that we had in 2024. That's, as I think it's 35 or 34 point something % of inflation. Battling that and retaining that inflation level, given our circumstances, were just things that the federal government or the Central Bank of Nigeria specifically had to handle, and they did it excellently well, that we are able to find ourselves today. Other policies that government may have come up with was the policy on importation of food into the country. I thank God that did not come through at all, but they made it as a policy, because that would have affected our agricultural activities so much and further put pressure on the naira value, which has already so much depreciated. So when you look at some of these key policies of government and how they were battling it, at the end of 2024, will still give them kudos for being where we are. You mentioned something about the tax reforms, and of course that cannot be separated. Economic policies are all intertwined in a manner that if you want to be consistent and get the kind of results that will be beneficial to the people, then you have to work on it in an integrated manner, and that's where the tax reform bill came into play. The section of the country, I wouldn't want to call it section of the country, a few individuals in the country that are opposed to it is surprisingly so that they are opposed to such a beautiful bill. Now, whether it's going to go through or not would have to do with the willpower of the president. The president has had the support of the National Assembly, let's put it, the majority support of the National Assembly so far. He could write on that to get that bill passed through as it should be. Because if you look at it, that bill is going to encourage production so much. And one of the challenges that we have had in our country that everybody seems to agree with is in the aspect of production. So if we are to encourage production and we have a tax reform policy that will comprehensively encourage and motivate production, then why would anybody come out to oppose that bill? My impression about it was that those opposed to the bill are not very conversant or have not sat down to read the bill.
Up till now? Because we would expect that they have, economists on their panel of conversation. You're looking at people at the helms of affairs in this nation, lawmakers. So we can't excuse them with, maybe they haven't understudied it effectively. Are we trying to push a regional divisive move with this tax reform bill as it is?
We are talking about a document of 370-something pages.
You get a team to understudy it.
Our reading culture in Nigeria.
These are important matters.
We've had a situation in this country where some people sat down and signed a bill and exempted themselves from participating in primaries.
I'm talking about the 2022 Electoral Act now that became a law.
You see, we have these things happening in Nigeria, following our reading culture, following the kind of people that we elect into positions of power. And of course, you would not exonerate someone like the vice president that has also opposed such a bill, and a governor of Nigeria that has also been opposed to such a bill. But we look at the content of the bill and we look at the benefits this bill would have brought to our economy, and we want to see it go through. And we encourage those in the National Assembly that are in the majority to see that bill goes through, because that is what is going to make a difference in the 2025 economy of Nigeria if it is successfully done.
Okay, so one other thing that, just going back to the president's speech for the new year 2025 is seeking for collaboration or calling for partnership between the local government, the state government, and the federal government for us to be able to see the kind of transformational leadership and dividends of democracy that Nigerians are yearning for. Looking at the dynamics and the politics, by some state governors and of course the elections conducted at some local government level, do you see a possibility of that kind of relationship? Because already it seems the local government chairmen are gearing up, for collaboration with the state governors. And we know in Nigeria, some state governors are not in support of what the federal government is doing and are not even, ready to align.
Friends, that's where we will see power play, because money determines power. Talking about the local government at all. So if the local government now have money directly into their accounts, then we may see something else coming to play in terms of how loyal they are to their state government. That is why this kind of politics will play in Nigeria, where the party primaries are not so well strengthened. It has a way of affecting us. So if we were to have competent people, capable people, we check more on capabilities, then we will see logic coming into play. And when people are about to make decisions, it will be based on logic, it will be based on logical analysis that would make majority of people see reason to whatever you are doing. The federal government, you will see even through the tax reform bills, going through, thinking of that kind of collaboration you mentioned, where the local governments, where the state governments would work together, talking about harmonizing the multiple tax system that we were having in the past. And these are things that if we get it right in our country, would help us so much, because if you have the local government administration working closely with the state government, and the state government is also having a kind of level of cooperation with the federal government, then you will see us likely going to make decisions that will benefit the citizens more than what we may be having today. This is one of the strong steps that the federal government is seemingly taking to ensure that we have a better system in Nigeria, and it should be encouraged.
Wow. So something else, looking at 2024 in retrospect, on in terms of some of the things that the president did, we saw the president every now and then congratulate himself with some of the strides that he had made, especially looking at the debt burden that the Tinubu-led administration had resolved in the year 2024. But just in a moment, before we get on to that particular conversation, we have Victor AniLaju joining us via phone call this morning from Lagos. Of course, he is the founder, ePay, of course, a tech financial institution, as it were, himself. And as to, by this time, we should call him, there's a name, Comrade Victor AniLaju. He's fighting for a new Nigeria. Good morning, Victor AniLaju. Good to have you on Rise and Shine this new year morning.
Good morning. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you, Victor. Welcome to Rise and Shine. How is Lagos this morning?
Everywhere is calm. We're trusting God, and we're doing our best to make sure 2025 comes with a new dawn.
Expectations are high. Well, we've already started out on the conversation, just looking at Nigeria's policy direction and reforms, some of the things that we did in 2024, where it brought us and where they might be taking us in 2025. And I would just take, your part of the conversation now. I would ask, which of the policy directions, what did the federal government do in 2024 that was the most outstanding for you, good or bad?
For me, it's still about the fuel subsidy. As you know, every economy runs on energy. And when energy costs is high, it affects the people. If you take a close study, looking at England, for example, they are really not doing well economically right now because of the high in energy. So I think we hope that 2025, the cost of energy should come down. Because right now, we have the infrastructure. At least we're told now we have Kaduna refinery working.
Worry.
Warri and Port Harcourt refinery working.
Yes.
We have Dangote refinery working. We are no more importing PMS. So I see no reason why petroleum products should be sold more than 400, 450 naira. Because if you want to study that trend of the high rate of energy, that's what has affected every sector. So even down to the health sector right now is affecting it. So I believe strongly if we want to move forward and encourage our people to be part of the progress of nation building, we have to make available a lower cost of energy. If we know that is one commodity that affects everybody, both the rich and the poor, right? So we cannot shy away from it. You know, people have to spend almost all their life savings to just travel for the festive period, and you could tell how harsh it was for Nigerians. One of the harsh situations we are facing in the Nigerian economy today is still because of the high cost of energy. Then another area that we have to still look into is our electoral structure. You know, from 2023, we found out that our electoral structure is so porous. I don't see any reason why Yakubu should still be the INEC chairman. Any forward-thinking country would have resigned him after the presidential election. Then we still look at our judiciary system. The Nigerian judiciary system was rated one of the most corrupt judiciary systems in 2024.
Who did that particular rating? Is it as a result of the Faratimi versus Babalola issue?
It's a, what do they call it? It's a civil society group that did that rating. And if you want to study it closely, if you have read the recent book that have been released by this young man that was arrested, you will see how corrupt the Nigerian judiciary system has been for the past 30 years. So, and when the judiciary system of any nation is corrupt, just know that you can't get justice. And that's what we see playing out within our community and within our country. So if we can tackle the fuel price, we can restructure our electoral system and revamp our judiciary body, I feel that the promises of 2025 can be achieved. Now, but what I see that in achieving this, there must be partnership between the people and the politician. I think the politicians are taking advantage of the people. So they use the judiciary system, they use the electoral system, and they use the high profits they are making from the petroleum product from energy. They use it to suppress and oppress the people. So Nigerians are suffering, but the politicians are enjoying. So, but we will not want that to continue. We have to make sure that we, the people, our voice becomes louder this year, 2025.
Okay.
Like I said, I see a new dawn for Nigeria this year, beginning from this year. But we, the people, must be ready to take the action. Let's talk more action for 2025. Thank you.
Let's talk more action. I think, you know, I'd also like for us to come down to certain specifics. Let's start with the judiciary, because that's where he left off. In the year 2024, where in particular, in what way did we feel that the judiciary failed Nigerians? Were there reforms, were there policies that they accented to? Was there a case in the full purview of Nigerians that, you know, that they would have done better by? Or we're just asking, and one of the most key conversations for the judiciary in 2024 was to consider a restructuring of its operations. So, Mr. Marvel, let's take your thoughts of the judiciary in Nigeria 2024.
The judiciary is one of the institutions in Nigeria that needs a complete overhauling. There is no attempt that they will make, there is no feeble attempt that they will make as a commission or an institution in Nigeria that would make us feel that there is a difference if we don't see it come to play in terms of the kind of judgments that come out from the court, in terms of the timelines of delivery of judgments. We still have situations in Nigeria where people handle cases that should have been handled in 3 months, 2 months, 6 months, being delayed for 6 years, 4 years without judgment. And when we have this kind of administration running in Nigeria, then we cannot really talk about reform, except it's going to be a deliberate reform that would be seen as a complete overhaul. So for the judicial system in 2024, I don't see any attempts that they have made towards any form of reform in Nigeria.
So it looks like there is a wake of, you know, I think that was 2 years ago, we had things like all eyes on the judiciary and all of that. So there is a main framing of the Nigerian youths where the judiciary is concerned. When we say that the judiciary does need an entire overhaul, is it something that is possible with the crop of people that we have? Remember, now we have a fresh, you know, I'll call it a fresh fight in our hands. Dele Faratimi writes a book that exposes some of the wrath that is available in the system. But now it is even becoming a bigger fight, apart from the fact that, you know, however the court decides to rule the case, whether or not he really defamed Afe Babalola, that's a different case. We are looking from the prism of corruption within the judiciary. Where do you think that the youth of this country stand in all of this?
It's a matter of perception, and most times the reality of it is that it's a scientific thing that what you roll out, what you see, what comes in is what you see. You can touch it where the truth is. Now, sometimes judgment comes out of the court based on the evidence available to the bench. Now, they make those judgments. It might not really align with the different generations that we are having in the world today. So if you are looking at what the youths are feeling, you are saying this generation that are looking, that you may be referring to as youth, how do they perceive processes of judgment? You see things are changing, whether you're talking about the work models or however you want to look at things, people don't really want to be, the youths don't really want to go the traditional way of believing that this process should be what it is, but they just want to carve it out a plan for themselves and see how they can view life differently. So when it comes to this area, it means that many of them will still be looking at new ways of doing things. But first and foremost, we should get things done in a manner that it is clear and obvious that the truth prevails when it comes to judgments that are coming out from the court. So if you don't get that done, it means you cannot get a different perception of the people. What is key is the complete overhaul of the judiciary to align with the times, such that we would have things running the way it should be. Whether it has to do with the corruption cases, do we truly have? We have a lot of accusations coming here and there regarding corruption in the system. But if we are looking at it in terms of the prevalent situations, we still hear people talk about some individuals owning the law court. So you would have people analyzing statements like you can go to court, which means you go to court, you
already have the upper hand there. Yeah.
So the system that we are running is what is encouraging all that. That is why I stand on saying, let us overhaul the system completely. Let us overhaul our judiciary completely alongside other institutions that are in Nigeria.
Okay. So let me come back to you, Victor, at this point. Taking a mind back to some of the things the President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has said in his New Year message to Nigeria, I'd like to take you on the aspect of your thought as concerns two critical areas. One, the tax reform, where the president has insisted is for the betterment of Nigeria, and we can all agree that a significant percentage of Nigerians are in support, even though we have seen a couple of different opinions coming from some individuals within the political landscape. What is your perception of the tax reform bill that President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has brought forward, which of course he has restated his commitment and that of the National Assembly as posited by the Senate President that it is going to become a reality in the year 2025?
No, one thing we need to understand, any tax reform will either make or mar our economy. And we, the people, are the one paying this tax. I can tell you categorically clear, most of our politicians are not paying tax. So whether we call it tax reform, whether we call it tax inclusion, it is the people that will still face the struggle. For me, I see those tax reform as a political tool to affect some part of the nation. But the truth about it is, instead of talking about tax reform, we should focus about what we call development reform. Who are you taxing? What are the industries that the people that you want to pay tax, where are they working? How do you make business to become easier for the paying on the people? You are not making businesses easier for us to do business so we can pay tax. You are not giving us credits. You are even discouraging investors from investing in Nigeria. So for me, what the APC-led government is doing right now is just political demonstration just for the people to feel that maybe they are doing work, whereas they are doing nothing. Tax is the percentage that you give to the government out of your profit. Nigerians now should even be giving free tax, no tax. We should even cut off tax for 2024 and 2025 until our economy bounce back. Businesses are going at loss. We are talking about tax.
Now, okay, Victor, let's actually look at some key things on the tax, because this particular tax reform bill would actually make life better for a lot more citizens than not. Now, the bill is driving towards taxing the richer as opposed to, the widespread taxation for everybody. Inside that bill, we have that, anyone who earns less than a million naira, between 800,000 naira to about a million naira a year annually, will not be paying taxes. That means that over maybe 70% of Nigerians that currently earn minimum wage and the likes will not be paying tax. And a lot of people say that would be in the best interest, as opposed to taxing the poor that already don't have. And we're also looking at tax brackets that make it possible for businesses that earn less than 50 million naira, that 50 million bracket in a year, not to also pay a category of tax. Don't you think that with those kinds of reforms, we will be making Nigeria a better place for people to live and do business?
Let me tell you the truth. Don't allow anybody to deceive you. When you tax the rich will include that tax on the commodity and the services they are rendering to the poor, which will cause increase in goods and services. So the poor are the ones still paying the rich, and for the rich to pay the tax. Now, how many rich people made profit in Nigeria 2024? I'm a businessman. I can tell you categorically 90% of the wealthy people in Nigeria did not make profits. Most of the money you see us spend in Nigeria now are money we made 5, 6, 7 years ago. If the government are sincere to themselves, I don't think it's tax reform that should be our issue. We should be talking about industrialization, infrastructure. That's what we should focus on. We are taxing people that is making losses. Fuel, you increase fuel from 180 naira to 1,200, 1,300. So who pays up that 900 naira? Is it from my profits that you want me to cover up the 900 naira and you want me to pay tax? See, I believe we all, especially the young generation in this country, we are wiser. We know what is supposed to be done. You cannot be talking about tax when the economy is going down. Nigerian economy is going down by the day. So what you should even be doing now is to even support, whether you are talking about big rich people or poor people. How many rich people do we have in Nigeria? Statistics have shown that 80% of Nigerians don't have 500,000 in their accounts. That's over 100 and something million people. So where are you going? Where are you expecting them to pay tax from? Where the poor don't have money to patronize the businesses of the rich, how can the rich make money? I stay in Lagos. I could tell you how many companies, how many businesses are folding up in Lagos.
Okay, now let's. I see that Mr. Essien has some reaction to Victor's stance, but I would just in all, let me summarize some of the key aims of this particular tax reform bill so that we are all on the same page. The tax reform bill of the Tinubu-led administration hopes to address the challenge of multi-layered taxation, which is a menace in Nigeria. Consolidate various legal frameworks relating to taxation. Now, this just like the Constitution of Nigeria, the laws of taxation is covered with a lot of things that only lawyers can explain, of which a lawyer can twist it for or against you. We also have the fact that this bill seeks to expand the country's tax base, which will overall, benefit us in more ways than one. The conversation of generating sustainable revenue streams for national development. Now also, that bill hopes to address complexities of the current tax system and also enhance tax compliance. Tax compliance is something that the FIRS has been talking about for years. And as opposed to what Victor said, a moment ago.
Can I come in there? Can I come in, please?
Okay, just a moment. We've been talking about, in the last couple of years, we've been talking about that we need tax reforms in Nigeria. And then someone suddenly comes to the table and initiates a tax reform. And we think it's about, whatever, ethnic division or something like that. So Victor, I'll take a quick reaction from you since you want to say something, because Mr. Essien live in studio was going to give a reaction, but take your short.
Okay, let's say the way it is. Whenever you talk about tax, whenever the government is talking about tax, there is this fear that comes, especially those business people. Whenever they see the government talking about tax, it's kind of sending a discouraging message to business owners. If you don't know either, you might know that because I run businesses in Nigeria. You don't give the people that free atmosphere to do business and to make sure they are making the right policies. There are even better way of introducing tax reform without even shouting tax reform, tax reform, tax reform. You can even call it an investment package for businesses. So when they come to you to collect the investment package, you will not show them, as we are giving you this investment package, this is what we expect you to be doing when it comes to your tax. I've always said that APC is a failure. The way they present their policies is always dead on arrival. A country, people are suffering. Businesses are folding up. You are talking about tax reform. You will make the business people to run away. They will start hiding their business. They will start keeping their profit low. And they will not submit the actual tax they are supposed to submit. Why do you think a country as big as America offers their people tax reform? So when you pay tax, at the end of the year, some certain amounts is given back to you. Why? That's a proper way of presenting a good policy. So this, what I'm just trying to say here is that as good as the tax reform idea seems, the presentation and the timing is wrong. Nigerians will become scared more. If you are doing business now, you will start bringing down your profits because you know the government's eyes are on your business. They want to collect tax. I've always said it in this country that if you want Nigerians to be paying tax, put incentive to the tax. If you tell Nigerians now that for those of you who are paying tax, you will have 50% of your health care bill taken care of. When you need loan or mortgage, as far as you are a taxpayer, you can get all of this from the government. You will see Nigerians will start paying tax.
Okay.
There are better way of presenting policies, and that's the brain that APC don't have.
All right. Okay, let's take Mr. Marvel's reaction. there's a question of timeliness, there's a question of presentation that, Victor AniLaju says that this tax reform bill failed at.
Remember I said that when we were looking at any economic issue, we need to look at it in an integrated manner. So the tax reform bill, as we are saying it, is one about also taking care of the economic climate in Nigeria. That's why you will see them addressing things like ease of doing business. So how do you even pay the tax? So you hear the tax reform bill including things like e-platform for easy payment and all that. Now the key is that we were even suffering so much as a result of multiple taxation, and this tax came out to address the need for multiple taxation. So it's not just about revenue. It seems Victor is just looking at it in terms of tax revenue.
Okay.
It's beyond tax revenue. When you are thinking about stimulating the small and medium enterprises, the kind of tax platform that you put across would also help. That is why government would say businesses below 50 million don't pay tax. That gives them the advantage of ploughing back their
profit into the business
and growing the business. And we know the strength of small businesses from nano businesses in an economy. So when you free them from this kind of tax expenses, then you are strengthening the base of your economy. Now when you do that, you now look at other things that will help touch on individuals' purchasing power. You talk about over 90% of people earning salaries will no longer be paying tax, because when you look at how many people earn more than 800,000 naira in a, it's not too many. So we could see the benefits of this tax reform beyond the revenue that some people may be looking at, to enhancing our economic climate. When we achieve that kind of level, then we know that it will stimulate other aspects of our economy, and we see us doing far better, and our GDP doing far better, and of course attracting foreign investors as well, because once you take care of your domestic market effectively, then you are already also marketing your economy. The effort of government in terms of strengthening the economy may have made it appear as if the small businesses are being affected today, talking about the interest rate. You see the military policy discussing making the interest rate to be so high in the country. That would affect small businesses. But you also see it impacting so much on the ability of the CBN or those in charge of monetary policy to cushion the effect of inflation, or to bring down inflation, to control inflation, because they know that if inflation keeps skyrocketing, that this is not going to be very good for the economy. It will crash our economy. You look at situations in other countries that talk about over 100% inflation rate, and how their economy have been struggling, and so on. And we thought Nigeria may get to that level, but Nigeria has not gotten to that level. The monetary policy of Nigeria has been able to hold down the inflation rate to what it is today. And if government effort is channeled to the right direction, especially talking about the agricultural policy of government, if it is gotten right, then we would know that they will focus more on mechanized farming, making sure that there is food, because food inflation is what is driving the rest of the inflation. We talk about it in terms of maybe the cost of transportation being high and driving up prices of goods and services. But the main thing is that if we have food sufficiency in Nigeria, that we would have been able to control inflation to a large extent. So when we are looking at any aspect of the economic policy, we should be looking at it in an integrated manner. The tax reform bill is one of the excellent things that has been proposed by this government.
By the Tinubu-led administration.
Yes.
What a wonder. Okay, something I'd like us, I would like us to also talk about some of the key problematic areas of, the tax reform bill, as it were, because even the presidency has continued to ask that media have this conversation to educate the people on the pros and cons of the bill. Now, the tax reform bill is looking to effectively hand over the revenue collection duty of the Nigerian Upstream Petroleum Regulatory Commission (NUPRC) to the FIRS, which had been, renamed as it were. So we're talking about the 7th schedule of the Nigeria tax bill now. Now, the problem here is that prescribing the royalties, all royalties of production of petroleum from inland basin, onshore, offshore, and deep water would be subjected to are to be collected on behalf of the Federation by the FIRS, cum the NRS, with royalties so collected by the NRS administered in accordance with provisions of the Nigeria Tax Administration Bill. This is something that, the northern senators and some northern governors are super kicking against. So if you've read through this particular tax reform bill, what does this 7th schedule of the bill really refer to?
When I heard you talk about the challenging or difficult areas of the bill, I was thinking we'll talk about the VAT. Good enough. That on its own, you see, that's the analytical ability of those that are discussing this to be able to see the benefits of the federal government placing themselves as the tax collectors through federal revenue service. We all know in this country that all tiers of government use consultants for tax purposes. So you have the local governments engaging consultants. You go to a market, you see people collecting for the local government. You go a step further to the tax collection of the state government. You see them engaging different kinds of consultants to do the tax collection for
all of that, putting a burden on what is collected.
What is collected. So if you're looking at it in terms of the percentage they pay these consultants 10 to 15% for tax collection. Now, if the federal government comes to say we are going to collect, I'm not too sure, I think 4% or so, and help collect this tax, in a way, they are also harmonizing things and making it simpler. There is a lot of administrative burden on all these other tiers of government when you talk about tax collection. When you are collecting tax, you think about the administrative cost of collecting the tax. So you have to employ people, set up office, buy equipment. But if this is centralized, it becomes cheaper. The federal government handles that job and do the job for you, and you save cost of paying consultants, cost of the administrative part of it. These are things that when a bill like this is moving, then we need to see how people can be communicated to. The communication will also help, just like the kind of communication that has been coming out from the CBN relating to these issues. When we were really thinking about the interest rates being very, very high, they come up with so many different types of communication to help the people, the citizens, to understand the advantage therein or the logic behind this decision or the bill that they are proposing.
Well, there's a lot to expect, and on all sides, across political divide, without the few persons who still have, sentiments about it based on regional interest or political interest, or just because they want to speak and be heard. Nigerians, holistically, significant number of Nigerians have queued behind the tax reforms of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. But there is a big concern. Going back to the issue of collection, one of the key concerns that governors, for instance, have raised is if we harmonize the taxes, just like we talk about the administrative bottlenecks, how sure are we that after the federal government have been able to get all of these taxes, the redisbursement to the state government will come as swiftly as possible and also to the local government? That's part of the concern.
There is a key advantage in data management in Nigeria. You see, when you set up systems, how transparent your system is will determine the trust people will have on that system. And I tell you, the setting up, leaving it in the hands of federal government with the platform of tax collection administration and all that, it makes it very, very transparent so that in real time you see who is paying, what is being entering that account and what it is. So with that transparency level, then there shouldn't be much concern about the collection or the administration of the taxes that are going to be collected. After all, everything is laid out plain. This is what goes here, this is what comes here, and this is what we are paying tax for, this is what we're not going to pay tax for. So with that level of transparency, people should trust the system and see You could access it real time from anywhere to say in month of or in this week what is going on in terms of this, and you sit down in your office and you sit down at home and you are seeing the transaction. So if this is well implemented, then we don't have much concern relating to the administration.
Okay, so Mr. Victor, let's come to you as we get this conversation towards the end of it. Value-added tax is another key concern of Nigerians as far as this tax reform bill is concerned. We'd like to take your thought of that.
Hello, Mr. Victor, are you there? We seem to be disconnected for a moment. Can you hear us?
Hello, Mr. Victor.
Are you with me?
Yes, we are with you. So we want to take your reactions to the issues around VAT on this particular tax reform bill, how it's generated, where it is shared, and how it is shared. I think that's the major problem with the northern extraction, some parts of the northern extraction of our leaders.
Well, I don't have a problem with the sharing formula. But where I have a problem is, what is the government putting in place to make sure that those money shared are used for the good of the people? You know, in 2024, we discovered the reason why our naira was depreciating was the mass demand of dollar by Nigerian politicians. So whenever they get their allocation, they convert our naira to dollar and send the money abroad. So that's where I just feel that tax should not be what we should be talking about right now. Because the people, as humans, tax is not really to our benefit. It's more to enrich the politicians. So what we should be talking about now is, how do we make sure every money that is allocated to the three tiers of government, the local government, the state government, and the federal government, they are used for the common good of the people. If I was the president of Nigeria today, I would declare Nigeria tax-free for the year 2025.
Entirely tax-free?
I'm telling you.
How would you hope to generate revenue to take care of infrastructure and other issues?
So I am telling you, it will go a long way to motivate the people. Because the truth about it is, can you tell me, you are in the city of Uyo, the tax that was collected, or that was the profit that was given to the people in Uyo, how has that made their life better? The way, because I visited Uyo last year, the way it is in 2023, that's the way it is till now. So there is the tax that they have been collecting. What are they using it to do?
Well, Victor, I don't know when last you visited Uyo, but
he said last year. Last year, you referring to 2024 or 2023? Because last year and 2023 is still fresh in our memories.
That's what I'm saying. So the tax money that was given to the Akwa Ibom state government, what was it used for? You don't see tangible industries. You don't see tangible infrastructures. This money are just being used for politicians to fund their expensive lifestyle.
Well, Victor, not holding great for the Akwa Ibom state government, that's paid, but if you look at the year 2024, there's some of the things that the Akwa Ibom state government have been able to do. We start with the signature project and the acquisition of aircraft for Ibom Air, for instance. I asked when last you visited to be specific. If you look at some of the things we've been talking about, like road infrastructure, you look at potholes and fixing access road, the government has invested heavily into that regard as well. And, this shows that however you want to look at it, the government of Akwa Ibom State is investing the money meant for Akwa Ibom into some of this, developmental strides. That is not holding brief for the government, or not also trying to make excuse for the possibility of the fact that there are people within the government who are stealing what is meant for the people.
Or that even the government could have been doing better, because I think that these are conversations we must also have. Not that a state government throws you carrots and you feel like
that's all there is.
We need to really be able to hold people accountable. Yeah, accountability, and that's something key. All right, so let's two other key areas. Still looking at last year. I'll start with Victor. Victor, let's talk about security in Nigeria in 2024. At the end of the year, we now heard that there is a new sect that is emanating out of the country called the Lukawara, and the Nigeria defense headquarters have been giving strong words that they are going to push them out of the nation. But holistically, and like we said earlier, let's look into how security fared in the year. At the beginning of 2024, there was what we recorded as the highest spate in abductions. At the beginning, yes, especially the FCT. January 2024 was with a lot of abductions. And then we went on there to highway issues, and then the Lukawara that culminated the year. So how would you rate the defense headquarters, the Nigerian defense architecture in 2024?
For me, there are some corrupt service or security personnel within our security architecture of the country that is sabotaging the efforts of the service chiefs. Let me tell you one truth that we have to face. The insecurity that we see going on in different parts of the country is being sponsored by some corrupt security personnel. It's one hard truth that we all must come to understand. Before any group of people will want to attack the Nigerian states or the Nigerian people, there must be an insider that is giving them information. What I would have advised the Nigerian security architecture should fish out the betrayers within their own system, within the police, their officers who are aiding and supporting and benefiting from insecurity. They should fish out those officers. Even the Nigerian army also, they should fish out those who are collaborating with insurgents, with this Boko Haram and his likes. That's where they should focus on in this year 2025. Nigerians are not criminals. Nigerians are not kidnappers. They are only some few persons who are being used by some corrupt security personnel to create insecurity so that it can benefit them. That's one angle. The other angle is for the federal government, in collaboration with the state government, to create a youth welfare scheme that will help the youth to acquire skill and to be well educated, and so that they can be useful to themselves and be useful to our country. Our insecurity system, or the fight of insecurity, we don't need guns and bullets. We just need good policies, good programs, and we fish out the corrupt security personnel within our security system, and we beg our politicians to stop using thugs for elections, because that is one of the loopholes why most states today are facing great insecurity challenges. Because the thugs that you hire today to help you win an election, after the election, they will want to continue their business. So what I'm just saying, if the politicians and the security personnel are sincere and they are true to the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, and they fear God and they love the people, Nigeria will be one of the safest places to live on earth. But as far as the politicians and the security personnel, the corrupt security personnel, are using thugs, are using even the security personnel to go after the people, to harass the people, to oppress the people, insecurity will keep on prevailing. So that's my little advice, and that's what I will say when it comes to insecurity in 2024. We need our politicians and our security personnel to take a new direction in this new year. That will help every one of us. Thank you.
You hope that a Tinubu-led administration, the APC government, should face in terms of governance and economic growth? What are your projections?
For me, I do have hope in the politicians. My hope is in Nigerians and in God, because our politicians, they are benefiting from the decadent, the failed economic system of Nigeria. So they want Nigeria to remain like this, because as far as Nigeria is like this, the politicians and some of our service chiefs will get more money, they'll become more wealthier, more prosperous, while the people are suffering. So my call for 2025 is for we the citizens to wake up and hold our governments, our politicians, and our civil servants, our security personnel, hold them accountable, because we are the one paying the tax. We are the one doing the business that they are using to pay them. The money Tinubu is spending is the tax that we pay. The money the governors are spending, the senators are spending, is our money. So I think we should actually have a national discourse where politicians and the people we sit down, we have to retalk about this country.
All right.
Failure to do that, I don't believe that there will be anything the politicians are going to do.
Okay.
I don't see that coming from the politicians. It's we the people, from our local governments down to our states, down to federal level. We need to wake up and hold our government accountable.
All right, Nigeria should
Thank
hold
you.
the government accountable. Thank you so much, Victor AniLaju, for joining us this morning on Rise and Shine. Of course, he's the founder, ePay, a financial tech platform, and of course, a key crusader for reforms in Nigeria. Thank you for your time on the show this New Year morning. Thank you.
Thank you for having me. God bless you.
God
All
bless
right,
you too,
then.
Victor.
Great conversation. But just to put a wrap on this, one of the most pivotal conversations we had in 2024 was the NLC fight for the minimum wage that finally culminated at the federal government, led by President Tinubu in July, accepting 70,000 as minimum wage. Just early on this week, the NLC had, said that they're going to restart a conversation about renegotiating the minimum wage as inflation and everything is showing that even the 70,000 is not enough. I don't know how successful that would be, but in summary, what did you make of the minimum wage fight? Because it was a real tussle. We had all kinds of projections: make it 500, make it 200, but we landed on 70. How good would you say the verdict landed, or would we have done better?
The consideration during the minimum wage issue for people like me was all about our economy, stability of prices of goods and services in the country. You see, the minimum wage issue came at a time that there were a lot of challenges about the government social welfare intervention program following the economic reforms that have been going on in the country. So you had the NLC say we really need value to be able to strengthen our purchasing power for us to be able to buy from the market as well. If inflation is going at this rate, of course you should pay us this amount. And there, the monetary policy was there struggling with these things, and we had this kind of situation where we were thinking about the consequences of a very high minimum wage. But you see, there were benefits out of it as well. We had situations where the policies on minimum wage were somehow reviewed. The 5-year time, waiting for 5 years for a review to take place, was also addressed during the time, so that people in labor will not have to wait so long for a review to be discussed regarding their wages and salaries. Now, if we had looked at it in terms of the economic part of it and ignored the inflation level, then we would have been discussing 250, 500,000 as was proposed. So the ability of government to be able to negotiate with NLC and have it at 70,000 was a good one. But you see, state governments also, in recognition of the hard times, have seen how to strengthen the workers' purchasing power by adding a few naira to what is declared as the minimum wage. So it is a key factor in terms of the economy of the country and how it was managed, especially the fact that we are able to manage our inflation. It was all about the inflation concentration that was on my mind during those discussions.
So you think that we have fair play where the minimum wage is concerned?
Yes, a very good fair play to keep it at that rate.
All right.
And the hope of a review.
A review.
With the hope of a review. I think that's the key place. All right, I think it's been great conversation, at least being able to look at some key areas in 2024 is a conversation we'll still have and keep dragging it on. But then let's move to the front pages of our national dailies. We'll take some headlines and see if there is anything that strikes this morning. We'll just take it on.
Well, of course, we're starting with the front page of the Daily Times newspaper. The screaming headline there: President Tinubu to governors, key to Nigeria's development lies with you. Still on the front page of the Daily Times newspaper, all the issues you can look out for there. President Tinubu unveils credit guarantee plan budget provisions, highlight investors' confidence. Nigeria's economy turning the corner, sustained growth ahead of Vice President Kashim Shettima. Okay, that's Vice President Kashim Shettima speaking there. Nigeria's economy turning the corner, sustained growth ahead. Federal government assures debt payments with budget provisions, highlights investors. Of course, proposed tax reforms to benefit over 90% of Nigerian workers, says Oyedele. Okay, President Tinubu received autographed gloves from boxing legend Anthony Joshua in Lagos. Those are the major stories on the front page of the Daily Times newspaper. We head to the front page of the Vanguard newspaper this morning. On the front page of the Vanguard, economy, hardship deals huge blows to physical, mental wellness. Of course, the writer there, increased treatment costs, threatening healthcare delivery, economic pressures, straining family relationship, causing household conflict. Experts say brain drain, worsening situation. Note, Nigerians in for long haul. Art social bonds need protection. Okay, of course, that's page 14, read on the front page of the Vanguard. Senate to vigorously scrutinize appropriation tax reform bills, others, that's according to the leader, that's page 4, read. And in 2025, God will crush Rivers' enemy. Another crisis still in Rivers State, that's Governor Fuber speaking. Budget 2025, federal government has adequately provided for debt servicing. That's according to the Debt Management Office. Pope seeks debt forgiveness for poor nations. We talked about that earlier on. Tinubu's New Year message divides Nigerians, page 5. And those are the major stories on the front page of the Vanguard newspaper.
Okay, I think the last one we take a holistic reaction would be Tribune. Local government autonomy is a big conversation as their payments are hopefully starting this January. I have no disagreement with governors, says Tinubu. Seek stronger collaboration to address Nigeria's challenges. That's the page to read. Tax reforms, North playing politics, says NBF. Okay, page 3. No hope in sight for Nigerians. PDP reacts to Tinubu's New Year message. Faces issues that will shape judiciary, health, entertainment this year. Okay, let's see how to foster growth in 2025. You would have to read to find out. French military base, Kaduna court remands Mahadi in prison. This conversation that we've been having and saying that nothing is happening, we're already remanding somebody. All right then, last story here. 2025 budget, Obi deplores exclusion of North Central Development Commission. These are all the stories that we can take this morning on the front page of our national dailies. Mr. Marvel, any reaction on any of the stories?
The one that struck me is about the hardship. Hardship versus mental health.
Yeah.
It's something that could affect productivity of the nation. So I think government should do more to be able to assuage the kind of hardship people are experiencing. It's breaking homes.
Definitely.
It is breaking homes. That's a serious one. No. Serious issues. Well, thank you so much, Mr. Marvel Essien. And of course, he's an organizational development consultant for coming on the show this morning and giving lights to some of the issues we've talked about today. Well, it's been a smart New Year morning here on Rise and Shine, and we're super excited that you were on the other side of the divide, viewing us from all over the country. Thank you so much. We do hope to have a very, very splendid Rise and Shine 2025.
Anyways, Francis Adet, Happy New Year once again. Ensure to have a positive mindset and believe in the supernatural being to come through for you.
We are Amen. Bye bye for now.